All right, so the hero's journey, I think of it as like Luke Skywalker in Star Wars doesn't want to go off and fight the Empire, but Ben Kenobi's there, and then shit kind of happens, and he ends up going off, and they blow up a Death Star at the end of the movie. I don't know if you've heard about that, but hopefully it's not a spoiler for you. I have the JFK files, the blind spots, filling in the blind spots, finding things that Candace can't find, all sorts of things about to come up in the next block. But I mention often the hero's journey. It's based on a 1969 book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell. It is immortalized by his interview, Joseph Campbell, with Bill Moyers, who was LBJ's press secretary. He's a very interesting character back in the JFK just got killed days. But anyway, old-timey, like older, later on in life, Bill Moyers, he's an endearing granddad figure interviewing Joseph Campbell. It's such a great PBS series back in the day. If you haven't ever seen The Hero with a Thousand Faces, the Bill Moyers interview, you should treat yourself to a weekend of listening to the unfolding of a much bigger story than what we're going to get to. We're going to get a summary for like 3 to 5 minutes from a TED Talk. But the journey is this. You have multiple times in life when you need to outgrow your status quo, where you need to face challenges, overcome obstacles, do things you haven't done before, get her done, no excuses, and repeat, because that's most of life. Encountering obstacles, solving problems, making progress, all these sort of things. So the hero's journey is at the beginning, you're kind of caught off guard and maybe not even aware. And then you have a choice, and then you get into it and it's hard. And then there's a rebirth through learning. You learn something you didn't know before through the experience, and then you apply that back to the world. And it's kind of like this recurring cycle that allows progress. Think of it like the wheel. It allows you to roll on down the road, get from A to B much faster than the other forms of transportation available at the time, like the square and the triangle. Those weren't so popular anymore after the wheel. But I digress. That's just like Flintstones history right there I'm thinking of. All right, so the hero's journey. It's important to understand it's not widely advertised to most people because the status quo does not want you figuring out that you can learn how to write your own script in life, be master and commander of your own ship, make your own decisions, and either decide that you want to be an excellent employee, an exemplary executive, or someone who can be an expert entrepreneur. Because these are various modalities where you can go out and trade your hard-earned labor in various ways. Barter, conquest. No, I'm just kidding. But you can trade Federal Reserve notes and pay into the Uncle Sam system. That's all options on the table. But when you don't have options and you need to put food on the table, knowing that you got effed at the drive-through with the school system doesn't really help unless you know what does that mean and what do I do about it, right? So once you know what that means, there are options of what to do about it. And part of that is the hero's journey. Part of that is what we left at the end of the last episode of this podcast as far as the masterclass on overcoming your fears. The reason I'm including this hero's journey is because we had an Autonomy landing pad for the new students that signed up early for season 13. And one of the former students who's now a graduate, Ed Underwood, he brought this TED talk about the hero's journey. And I was like, what's going to be in this? And then I was like, oh, this helps people unlock the reason why last week's masterclass is such an essential element. Because if you don't handle those fears, you never get the growth or progress or accomplishments or goals or any of these other things. They don't come into your life. And life without those substantial, meaningful consequences of you learning to do something better and better is absent. It's void. It's not growing. It can't be fun. It will probably be demoralizing. And that is it could be a rest stop, or you can choose it as final destination. You have to get up and put one foot in front of another and get away from that and get back toward progress. Learning the hero's journey and identifying in any given project that you're in, what part of the learning curve am I in? Did I get rid of my illusions and learn something new and fix the thing? Or am I still down here trying to work it out at 3, 4, 5 o'clock? So I thought this was a short, sweet explanation that you guys can all grasp real quick, and it's animated. So let's watch it together and then we'll come back and comment.
What do Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen, and Frodo all have in common with the heroes of ancient myths? What if I told you they are all variants of the same hero? Do you believe that? Joseph Campbell did. He studied myths from all over the world and published a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, retelling dozens of stories and explaining how each represents the monomyth or hero's journey. So, what is the hero's journey? Think of it as a cycle. The journey begins and ends in the hero's ordinary world, but the quest passes through an unfamiliar, special world. Along the way, there are some key events. Think about your favorite book or movie. Does it follow this pattern? Status quo, that's where we start.
All right, so the hero's journey, I think of it as like Luke Skywalker in Star Wars doesn't want to go off and fight the Empire, but Ben Kenobi's there, and then shit kind of happens, and he ends up going off, and they blow up a Death Star at the end of the movie. I don't know if you've heard about that, but hopefully it's not a spoiler for you. So the hero's journey is prevalent in story narrative writing, but also like if you're going to write your own script in life, are you going to be like Dostoevsky's The Idiot? Or are you going to learn to be like your best self? Be a better person today than who you were yesterday. I call that your yester self. And that's really all you have to do to, as far as competition. I don't compare myself to other people. I compare myself to who I was yesterday. And every day I learn so much that I know I couldn't have been that smart yesterday because I learned so much already today. If you would like to outgrow your status quo, this week we are having the worldwide meet and greet and welcome concert. Special guest Grant presence for Autonomy Season 13. Get the hidden skills that you need to achieve lifelong financial success and truly start living. Now, it's not about yachts or Bentleys or jets or anything like that. It's learning about learn how to learn anything, meta learning how to apply that toward the goals in your way, learning how to make your offer to the market, and learning how to market that offer so that you have more money coming in than you have to spend out every month. And that sets you on your way. And learning how to do that is something you can practice for the rest of your life at getting better at, but it gives you the broad spectrum of tools that were deprived by schooling and now replaced by autonomy, the ultimate skill set for freedom. So if you're interested, you can go over to getautonomy.info. You have to complete the primer course and you have to talk to a graduate in order to get enrollment options. You cannot just simply click and buy it. And that's how that works. Paul and or Scott, when did you guys first encounter the hero's journey concept?
Well, I think it was watching the Bill Moyer deal. But
Does that make us old? Because like we remember watching that. It was a big deal.
I used to watch PBS back when there was only 7 channels on TV, so that's how close to 50 I am. But I've written a few screenplays and tried to use that as kind of the template model for like a fulfilling or worthwhile story, so you can kind of hook your plot points and your character development onto that as an overarching narrative to go on this what Dan Harmon from Rick and Morty would call the story circle. His is an even more simplified version of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. Even the script I just am working on right now, Woke to the Future, similar journey for the character, similar older person mentor who has to set him on his way and then leaving his comfort zone, going out and facing adversity in the world and trying to attain a treasure and then come back a changed man and with this sort of upgraded life. And I think it's interesting because that's sort of the reason I think a lot of people resonate with it, is because it's something people both yearn to go through and also recognize that they have gone through at times in their life. And so whenever you see that, there's just this like innate familiarity with the hero's journey for just about anyone who's lived a significant portion of life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Woke to the future. I'm very much looking forward to that. That's awesome. I can't remember where I first came across the concept, but I like, like you said, Paul, it's very just such an archetypal thing, and it is something that I think many of us recognize as having gone through in the past, and it's. I also agree with the value in like not comparing myself to others, but I do look at other people who have been on a similar journey. And I look up to a lot of people like you guys, for example. I look up to you quite a bit who have been on this path, and I'm like, okay, what can I glean from that? And there's like two different approaches when you're on a journey of self-discovery that you can take. You can have the attitude of must be, and the phrase is must be nice. It's like, and you could either look at it as must be nice, as in like, spiteful and jealous, or you look at it as like must be nice, as in, yeah, I want some of that. And actually, we talk about it in recovery a lot, where it's like you look at somebody who has what you want, and then you ask them how they got it. That's like the secret to success. And so it's like when you're on your hero's journey, you can find other heroes who have been on that journey, and you can get information from them. And that's one of the values I see in autonomy is like, because Richard obviously is just a wealth of information, but then you have the community itself where people in various stages of that journey, a lot of graduates who then come back to share their journey and get input from the community, and then people who are just embarking on it. So that's one of the cool things about it. But yeah, just make sure you're approaching it with the must be nice attitude of like, yeah, that must be nice. I want that. How do I achieve that?
And when you ask that question, people will either give you literal answers like, I went to the dealership and bought it. Have a nice day. That's not the person you're going to connect with. Then there's the person who's like, well, I started here and I did this and I built up to here. And now that's someone you can actually, have a relationship with, ask them for advice in the future. Like you can have a conversation from there. So there's open-ended questions that you can ask. And then it's a numbers game when you need information. Not everyone you ask is going to say, here's the keys of the kingdom. But some people were like, I asked that question a long time ago. Here's the keys of the kingdom. Knowledge gets passed on. Wisdom is learning from other people's mistakes without having to pay so much time or money for those mistakes in your life.
And a big part of being an autonomous person is not waiting for a superhero to show up and save you, but rising to the occasion and becoming your own hero and being able to save yourself and learn how to thrive instead of just surviving. And yeah, I think, at least with my experience with autonomy, that was one of the biggest takeaways, is just learning not to give up, that you can find your way out of problems if you just develop your sense of imagination and critical thinking. And yeah, it's rare to come across a problem that's unsolvable. And so you don't outsource your free will and your desire to change things to some superhero who's never going to show up. You're like, okay, you know what? I've solved problems before. I can solve this, and you figure out a way to do it. And if not, you learn how to ask for help and make friends with people who know how to help solve your problems with you and teach you how to solve those problems. So it's a good cycle.
Yeah, you've got a choice. You can have problem, reaction, solution, and you see what the status quo solution is for everything. It's not in your favor. Or you can have problem, thoughtful response, autonomy. You drive a car. If you know how the car works and how to maintain it, not only can you drive and maintain your car, but you can help other people fix their cars. I'm talking about doing the same thing, but with the quantum computer between your ears that can allow you to do things that cars can't do, right? It's like a very widely adaptable mechanism that you got going on there with that quantum computer. So learning how to use it, maybe investing more in learning how to use it than you invested in your used car. These are not bad ideas, because investing in yourself only pays off when you show up for yourself, and it only doesn't pay off when you don't show up for yourself. That's how that works. So knowledge of self, which goes back to the hero's journey, Star Wars, and Luke having to go into the cave. And Yoda says, it's only thing in there is what you take with you. Thus, the masterclass. Fear is optional. Learn how to not carry that extra baggage of fear, anxiety, pressure, pressure, all these other things that go on, unless you learn how to cut that baggage loose. Now you can be nimble to respond to opportunity, and you can do so with a calm, cool, collected attitude, and you can be polite and patient and perseverant and doggedly tenacious. I'll leave it there.
Everyone's doing some kind of self-help these days, and you can find a million self-help courses out there. Most other courses out there are hosting lectures,
They're hosting videos, they're maybe even doing Q&As, and these are great starting points to encourage learning. But at Autonomy, we believe that hands-on practice is the best way to really lock in what we're learning. There's no better way to gain confidence and mastery than through action. After each lecture, we practice the concepts we've learned with other students, giving and receiving feedback in a non-judgmental environment. The result is mastery of concepts like entrepreneurship, ethical sales, and self-reliance in an environment that directly translates to the real world. Plus, you make connections with other like-minded individuals who are learning right alongside you, and you have a lifetime membership in the community. The Autonomy course with Richard Grove equips you with confidence, competence, and courage in a world filled with confusion and noise. You can learn more at getautonomy.info. We'll see you there.
What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. There's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man. Come